Today I pull a bike apart to fit this modified neutral switch. It's a bugger of a job.
That's the neutral switch there, and you see where it goes onto the end of the barrel in behind it. You can see the little pin in the end of the barrel. That's the neutral position it's in at the moment. That little pin rotates as you change gears. Neutral switch has just got the one brass pin. This is the original neutral switch. When the sprung load pin behind it is touching the brass pin on the neutral switch, it earths the brass pin to the engine, lets the dash know that, and the safety mechanism know that it's in neutral and safe to start. I have got to this by dismantling a fair bit of this bike to do it. Let me come out and you can see that that's in behind the exhaust. So I've released the exhaust from the cylinder. I've still got the rear of the exhaust. The muffler is still in place there. There's the exhaust guards, both the front mesh one and the chrome plated. That's the rear piece you can see there, and over that side is the front piece of the guard. I've also taken the recoil starter off. I've taken the wheel off. I've released the shock absorber. The shock absorber there is released because to get a piece of the exhaust guard out, I needed to swing the shock absorber up into the air. I'll go back steps further, and I've taken this front engine support out so that I had room to remove, or at least release, the exhaust pipe. Up in the front mesh guard, I've had to release the gear shift lever off this piece, and I've released that transfer case bracket. And then this bike was fully assembled, so the wheels off, the rear rack and plastic's off, the front rack and plastic is off. Those pieces, that's the rear rack and plastic, that's the front rack against the wall, and the front plastic on the floor there. Quite a lot of work to get to where this neutral switch goes. A lot of the front gear is so that the wiring can go through up to the dashboard. It needs to go up and under some of the controls at the top there as it gets fed through up to the dashboard. All of the front needed to be dismantled. This gear change thing might have been a good idea, but it's going to take a bit of work fitting it. I should have cleaned some of the dirt out of this posi before I took the switch off, but I'll do that now, and being careful not to get it in around the end of that barrel. The wire for the neutral switch finds its way up across the top of the carburetor there. I've only got one hand here. You can see I wiggle that. And that's the neutral switch finding its way up over the top of the carburetor there. I'll continue on and fit the new modified neutral switch, which shows the gear positions. That's the airbox removed. That's it there. That's the dreaded interconnection hose. It's a bugger to put on. It's a little bit easier when you've got the airbox completely removed. There's hoses here, vent hoses on the airbox. This is the crankcase breather. It goes round. It's a U-shaped one like that comes in on the side. This one I'm going to go and have a look at. And this one is a drain that goes down towards the wheel. You go to the wheel, it just goes to a block-off plug. The reason I took the airbox out was the neutral switch here, the wire for it came up through here and went through this cable tie. That's the reverse switch here, and that reverse switch is on I think there's 3 wires in that reverse switch. Yeah, 3 wires in the reverse switch. The neutral switch came up, went through that cable tie and joined in to the reverse switch harness up here at this bullet connector, and it was being hung up on that cable tie down there when I was trying to pull it out. I figured in routing the new neutral switch, I'll try and run it the same way, which means running through that cable tie. So the wire will run through here under the bracket there where my finger's running through that cable tie, and then follow this one up and around and plug in there with the neutral switch bullet connector that I've got on it, and the rest of the harness will continue on from there up over underneath all of this and up to somewhere behind the ignition box there. It needs to come up where all these other cables are coming through, down there and up through this wire and finish up here somewhere. That's what I'm doing. Created a fair bit of extra work having to take that airbox off, but it does give me the opportunity to clean a little bit better as well. I've got that cleaned up around that end of the barrel where the new switch will go. I've got the pin out of it at the moment so I didn't lose it. I was using a vacuum cleaner to suck some of the dirt away, and then I've given it a wipe down in CRC. Now ready to put the new switch on. So that's my new neutral sensor in location. I found a new O-ring for it. The cord leading away there runs close to the reversing lever, but it misses it. And there's a tie at the top there where it ties to that bracket. There's my Deutsch connector, and there's my blue wire going up and plugging in to the bullet connector. And I've just tested the neutral position is actually working through that blue line already. That gives me confidence that the little pin, the spring-loaded pin in there, is actually touching one of my new pins, brass pins, making an earth run through. So that leads me to believe that all other gears should work as well. I'm going to start putting things back together because I can't actually change gears while this gear lever here, the foot pedal, which is normally mounted to that frame bracket, is not in position because I can't click it through the gears. So I've got to start putting some stuff back on, and that includes the exhaust. A lot of stuff's got to go back on, but I'm going to do that with the assumption that this end is all good now. That's the airbox back in and the carburetor connected, and the cable run up underneath the control gear, and there it is sticking out the top. There's plenty of length in it. Still all just a prototype. The sensor itself can stay there. It should be good unless it melts. I'll now start putting the brackets and exhaust stuff back on in front of it down here, including this piece of frame. I need to do all of that before I can test the function of it. I've got this gear shift rigged up on this particular bike. Got the bike sitting up on tubs. Got it just idling there. Neutral lights displaying here. This is my voltmeter, so it's charging at 13 plus volts. There's my display taped to the top of the battery there at the moment, and I'll move this gear shift here into first gear.
Well, that seems to be working fine. I need to put a whole lot of gear back on this bike. It's going to take ages. Get out to your shed and have some fun.